Greetings everyone, a junction malfunction here, and today I'm back with part 3 of the giant Trackmaster review. Today it seems we have a bunch more new locations to explore and review, most notably the Misty Island sections that Trackmaster released as well as the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. Today our guide will be none other than Percy, although Thomas will make a few cameos as you will see. But first things first, let's see an overview of what we've got to explore today, and then off we go with Percy. But first, he's got to collect a bunch of troublesome trucks, or he's got to display and showcase a bunch of different functions and features of the various destinations that there are in this little setup that I've created. As you can see, there are a lot of different points, utilizing Trackmaster's wide and varied selection of track pieces that they had available. Even though Tomy may have had more switches than Trackmaster ever did, Trackmaster still offers a wide variety in points that you can make use of for your various layout desires. And so far, Percy's collected 2 troublesome trucks, one blue one that came with the Sodor Search and Rescue Center piece, and a gray one that came with Thomas in the Misty Island Discovery set. But now, Percy's got to collect his brake fan, since as we all know, safety comes first. And here, Percy backs onto his brake fan, and off we're ready to go ahead. Isn't that right, Percy? How delightful. And off Percy heads through the tunnel. Note, this was a piece I had not reviewed, and that is something I have had previously in my collection. But first, we've got to look at the Shake Bridge, a most notable piece of Trackmaster. I did not grow up with this piece, but in a way I did via Leokin videos about said piece. Anyway, Percy's made it over with no issues, thank goodness, and now he descends the track through the tunnel. Well done, Percy, you're running right on time and being really reliable. And as he exits Misty Island, we now enter the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. Look, it even has a spot for Harold the helicopter in case there's an emergency. How very useful indeed. But as we can see, the 2012 variation of the Trackmaster Percy model makes its way around the little layout that I have set up. Now, this is supposed to be a part of the, it was like the Harold and Percy Flying Rescue Scent or something. It was in the first part of the review. I could post the image here, but might as well just watch the first part of the review. Am I right or am I wrong? Anyways, Percy runs around the little layout. We can see how there's multiple different Harolds, which I will get to later in the video, but right now we're supposed to be just watching Percy. He does get stuck, mind you, in that little area between where the Sodor Search and Rescue set piece is at and where that little Search and Rescue sign piece is, which I quite think is lovely, nice little bit of detail, but unfortunately those two pieces together doesn't interfere with the overall running of the model. Anyway, now it's time for Percy to show us this model up and close. My main criticism is that it's only a 2D model, like it's only meant to really be looked at like from one angle, which isn't ideal for, especially when I assume you have to pay quite a hefty price for this. The doors are also quite flimsy too, as you can see as Percy rolls by. They just kind of flung open after a little while. They're very flimsy and open a bit too easily. But I gotta say the rest of the piece is very nice for Harold's hangar for the Sodor Search and Rescue Center, as was seen on the CGI show. It's got nice wood detailing, the doors, I mean, even if I do have criticisms with the doors, they do at least open actually. Mattel could have very easily have just not done anything. And you even got this nice cool little spot for Harold, which is, kind of the whole point of the hangar in the first place. And, well, he does look rather nice up there. Mind you, that is the Hit Toys variant and wouldn't be the one that came with this set. But anyway, Percy's going to show us how this little thing-dooby-dobby, whatever the heck it's called, works. As he stops on the stop-and-go switch, his wheels spin the gears on the little, I don't know what you'd call that, but the white thing that's right there on your screen, you see it there. That's supposed to spin around and move the Harold, you attach Harold to it. But unfortunately, I didn't have enough space because that said box was right in the way that contains that old Thomas PC game. So I will show in part 4, which will be the last part to this video series, of Harold spinning around, but I think it's a rather neat feature that Mattel included. They didn't have to. It's a bit similar to the Tomy's Dry Out Station where Harold would spin around, but this is just in the theme of Sodor Search and Rescue Center, and to be honest, I kind of prefer it since Search and Rescue Center, it's more toy-like than an airfield than Dry Out, because Dry Out is more realistic, and this might just be personal preference, but Sodor Search and Rescue Center, well, it's a bit more toy-like. Anyway, as you can see, Percy's picked up some cargo here, which is going to be super useful because it's got a magnet. I do not remember why the toy has a magnet. It's just something the crate has. And anyway, Percy's on his way now to go and deliver that crate. But first, we've got to pay a visit to the Sodor coal hopper. It would represent the coal mine, but as you can see, it's mostly just a coal hopper here to serve the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. But as you can see on the bottom of the model, there's this little switch area which you can turn on or off depending if you want the lever on the opposite side of the track to be on or off in order to flick the movement on the troublesome truck, which I'll show in a little bit. It operates a little gear on the bottom of the troublesome truck that lets Percy fill up his coal truck magically with coal. As you can see, there's a little gear I was talking about, and the piece of track, which can be turned on and off depending on what you want. And as Percy chuffs by, voila! His truck is completely filled with Sodor coal. Isn't that really nifty? And as you can see, Percy puffs through and collects more coal. But as cool as this feature is, I do have some minor complaints with it. Although, I gotta say, the piece overall, it's a bit squashed. I'd prefer if it was taller, much like the Sodor coal hopper that we looked at earlier, which is all red. Anyway, here's that little troublesome truck with the little white doohickey thingy. Gear? Yeah, gear. That's the scientific word or something like that. But anyways, as you can see here with my thumb, I can spin it around, and that you can see barely how it flicks through on the other side, the coal piece flicking around and around and around. And that's how that operates. It's not quite so magical, but you know. My main other criticism is that it only operates in one direction. So, not like the band, but, and also it can get stuck as Percy's going through, which is probably the more irritating thing, since this is meant to be something that you can just look at, just happen, just on and on and on and on and on. But because it gets stuck, you have to intervene personally, which is kind of defeats the point of the whole Trackmaster thing. It's like kind of hands-free. You can just kind of let the engine do its thing, which I think is a bit of a drawback. But hey, Percy's got his deliveries, and now he's off to deliver them. Isn't that really useful? Isn't that right, Percy? Oh, and he's away. It would seem Percy's made all of his deliveries right on time. Well done, Percy. Hats off to you, literally and figuratively. In any case, there's not too much to discuss here other than these two crane things, as I call them in the videos. Not in the videos, but, you know, in the previous review section of this. Well, it's a video series. Anyway, you're really hang up on things that don't really matter. These two cranes, they're interesting pieces, I guess. They come in that, like, Brendam crane set, and they swivel and move just like that. And there's not a whole lot to them. I mean, they're nice little additions to your layout. And just pieces of eye candy, just little pieces of set decoration. There's not much to them. Would I recommend buying them? No. Would I recommend getting rid of them if you have them via buying a larger lot? Again, no. They're just very averagely okay, mediocrely, just fine pieces of Trackmaster stuff, I guess. In any case, it's time for Percy to go. He's off for a rest, for he's been really useful and deserves the rest. Also, this little spinning yellow thing, it came with a Trackmaster 2 set. It's a bit like a race course almost. Belongs in a quarry, which you'd seen in the previous part, but I thought it would look neat here since I didn't really mention it in the last review part video of the series. Anyway, here are the castle gates, which we'll talk about more momentarily. For as you see, Percy's a little bit off for a cat nap. The castle gate is, well, missing a gate. There's only a gate, not really gates. But here's the Royal Castle Gates delivery, new in its box, or at least in its original packaging. It's not quite new in box, but as you can see, this is what it was designed to do, and this is from 2013, and there's both of them. Thomas going through, showing how the gates open in both directions, yada yada yada. Again, it's a very okay piece, and it's kind of weird having 1.5 of them, and it's only really useful if you have the Ulfstead Castle sets, which Trackmaster released. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend getting it. Meanwhile, as we let our little green caterpillar earn their rightfully earned nap, we will direct our attention over to the Shake Bridge. Woo! By far one of Trackmaster's best pieces ever designed by Mattel. It did really capture what was shown on television screens back when Mystery Island Rescue was released on the DVD. The wood detailing, the little holes in the track, the bits of the fence just falling over, and you can even run the track underneath if you got 2 of them by connecting another piece of track on top. Just overall, a really nifty piece. I mean, it's iconic is the best word to describe it. However, engines, I do notice, while it is part of the fun, they do derail a bit too much or get stuck, which not entirely the fault of the engine. And you also can't fit engines underneath the bridge either, so for now, bye-bye Luke. We won't be seeing any more of him in this review, that's for one thing. But yeah, overall, my only two complaints is that engines will get stuck on it, and it's not even the fault of the bridge, but more so the fault of the toys themselves, of the engines we're trying to represent, which is a nuisance because you're trying to recreate the scene and they just get stuck. They don't even derail, which is kind of the whole point of the Shake Shake Bridge, I feel, is to cause danger and chaos, but not to the point where the engines can't operate on it. You'll see momentarily soon what I mean with Trackmaster, Thomas, and Percy, but for now we're going to take a closer look at some of these Herald pads, or helipads, or I like to call them Herald pads, but they're helipads. And honestly, they're pretty just meh, they're whatever. I prefer the white ones. I think it's because of the red on it. I mean, the yellow one's also cool with the gray. But that one's I feel is more CGI, where I feel the white one with the red lines are more iconic or more classic era. Of course, you got the one with the tunnel, and we saw the one earlier with the Sodor Search and Rescue Center piece. I'd say the tunnel one you could honestly throw in the quarry, nobody would bat an eye. There's Jeremy's water tower and Harold's hangar and Jeremy's hangar, and they're all fine pieces too. I already kind of looked at them more in depth before earlier, and I like them a bit more since, you know, Hit Toys. Usually 9 times out of 10, whatever Hit Toys made for Trackmaster is usually better. Since, for example, that little coal truck piece that Thomas is carrying, the Hit Toys designed that. It wasn't Mattel. Like, yeah, Mattel re-released it, but it was in fact Hit Toys which designed that little clever mechanism for the truck to flip over and its little load. But overall, I'd have to say these pieces overall are just great. They're of a bygone era, and I would recommend picking up these pieces if you want to recreate the goodness, the absolute worst era of Thomas ever is the Miller era. Maybe not quite the worst, but it's pretty much up there with Misty Island Rescue and Day of the Diesels and all of that. You can recreate it pretty well with these Trackmaster toys. And as I said earlier, here you can see Thomas and Percy struggling to cut across the flip-face bridge. Flip-face bridge? I don't think we're talking about the same thing. The Shake Shake Bridge. But yeah, as you can see, Percy here is derailed and just... Well, that's funny. And what's not so funny is when Thomas just gets stuck there. And he's not even, like, derailed or anything. He's just absolutely stuck. Like, he just can't move. But, all in all, I'd have to say these are some great pieces to have. And I would recommend picking up them. Especially the Shake Shake Bridge off of eBay. That one in particular. That one's... And you can also find it fairly cheap, too. So, with that, for now, Percy and Thomas bid you adieu. And this is a Junction Malfunction signing off for now, and I'll be sure to see you all in part 4.